Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil. Lots to get into on the show this morning, but before we do that, please do me a small favour. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new, bottom right hand corner. We're only one subscriber away from 40,600, so go and do that right now. And be sure to like the video as well. Let's try and see 500 likes on this episode. On the show this morning, we will be talking about Manchester United submitting a second bid for Patrick Dorgu. We'll also be reacting to the report that came out saying that Napoli have submitted a £50 million offer for Alejandro Garnacho. We'll also be discussing Marcus Rashford, who is now back in first team training at Manchester United and looking likely to stay at the club beyond the January transfer window. As always, I invite you to have your say on all things Manchester United in the comment section below. And the question that I've got for you today is this: how much is Patrick Dorgu worth? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. We'll start the show off by talking about Patrick Dorgu then, shall we? So, the latest on Patrick Dorgu, this was coming up from Laurie Whitwell, is that Lecce and Manchester United met up yesterday to discuss the deal. And the report generally states that apparently at the moment there is a €10 million difference in valuation between what Lecce are willing to sell him for and what Manchester United are willing to pay. So the offer that Manchester United have submitted is apparently €30 million, including add-ons, which is about £25 million. I think that's probably fair. I think it's still a little bit over the actual market value personally, but I think, in the grand scheme of things, 30 million including add-ons, I don't think is that bad of a deal. I would be relatively happy with that. But apparently Lecce are asking for €40 million, including add-ons, but there is an understanding that a deal should be able to be negotiated between the two sides. So it might end up being that Man United pay €35 million, including add-ons, which is £30 million or £29.5 million. I don't think he's worth that much, to be honest. I think he's probably worth, I would say, £15 to £20 million tops. So we would be paying almost double what his actual value is. But at the same time, I understand that as soon as Manchester United come knocking, the price is doubled. And I hope that would stop under Ineos. I think in the summer we did some quite good deals on some players. But at the same time, if you remember with Manuel Ugarte, we spent 4 months negotiating with him and then we still paid the price PSG wanted. So, yeah, it's a difficult one. Obviously, Lenny Yoro was, £42 million? Not particularly cheap for a 19-year-old. And I think the problem we have now is, although those two players were good signings, I think a lot of clubs will be looking at our situation and saying, you're desperate, you need our player. We also want to keep our player. Either you pay the price or we don't sell. But I'd love to know how much you think. Patrick Dorgu is worth. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. You can either do it in euros or pounds, whatever you prefer. I like to give people both the euros and pounds because I think it makes it a little bit easier. Let me see what people are saying in the chat this morning. Welcome, everybody's just joined the video. I hope you're doing good. I think the reason why I think that £30 million is too much for Patrick Dorgu is the fact that Napoli value Garnacho at £50 million. I mean, that doesn't make sense, does it? You've got Garnacho, who statistically is the best under-21 winger by way of goals and assists in Europe at the moment. He's better than Lamal. He's better than Jamie Gittins at Dortmund. If you look at the stats of Garnacho over the last couple of seasons, he is producing the most goals and assists out of any of those players. So if he's only valued at 50 million, then how is a left back playing for a relegation fighting Serie A side worth 30 million? It doesn't make sense. But it's just a classic example, isn't it? Where if a team wants to buy a Manchester United player, they undervalue them. But then when Manchester United want to buy one of their players, they say that they're worth double what they're worth. And it's something that we need to get around, but yeah, I guess it is just how it is at the moment. So Laurie Whitwell has said the following. He says €10 million currently separates Manchester United and Lecce's valuation for Patrick Dorgu. He says that talks do continue. United have indicated that they are prepared to go as high as €30 million. So that's what we just discussed there. €30 million, which is £25 million. I'll be honest, if we pay £25 million, I think that's probably fair. If that's including add-ons, maybe 20 million up front plus 5 million in add-ons. I think that would be a fair price for everybody. It's over his market value, but it's not massively over his market value, if that makes sense. So if you look on the website Transfer Market, which is usually pretty reliable for players' valuations, it says that Patrick Dorgu is valued at 20 million euros, okay, which is about 17 million pounds. Manchester United are apparently willing to pay 30. So we're willing to pay 10 million euros over his market value. Now, obviously, Lecce saying they want 40, I think that's just unrealistic. That's double his market value. And I think, Napoli aren't going to give them 40 million for Patrick Dorgu. That's the thing. We hear that these other Italian clubs are interested, but these Italian clubs won't pay 40 million euros. Not a hope in hell. No way. They'll probably want to pay like 20, 30 million euros max. So it's all good and well them saying we want 40 million euros, but the fact of the matter is Lecce have an opportunity here to sell a player that they only bought for 200,000 euros. In July 2023, they bought him for 200,000 euros, and they now have an opportunity to sell him for 30 million euros, which is absolutely massive for a team like Lecce. Lecce are not a big team in Italy. They don't have much money, really. And at the moment, they are, I think, they're 1 point off the relegation zone at the moment, Lecce. So they're not doing particularly well. And Patrick Dorgu is currently their most valuable asset. Some might argue that maybe if they keep him, they don't get relegated, and how much is relegation worth? I don't know the answer to that question, but at the same time, Patrick Dorgu has apparently said yes to Manchester United. He's agreed personal terms, and he's really, really keen to join Manchester United in January. So I personally think that this deal will happen. I think it's a matter of when, not if. But what I would say is this. I really, really do hope that we don't overpay for him, because I'm excited about this player. I think he looks like the real deal. I think he looks like he has massive potential. But if Man United pay 40 million euros for him, there's going to be massive question marks being asked, so for me, 30 million euros, fine. A little bit high, but I would be happy with it. 40 million, I would be very disappointed with. I think it shows bad negotiation, and I think it shows that, we're no different than under the Glazers, where we overpaid for players. Now, on the flip side of that, there is obviously Alvaro Fernandez, who's available. Alvaro Fernandez has been absolutely phenomenal for Benfica this season. He was absolutely incredible in their Champions League game a couple of days ago against Barcelona. He was, I would even say, world class. Absolutely incredible. And Manchester United do have a buyback clause for Alvaro Fernandez. Fabrizio Romano was talking about this yesterday, saying that Alvaro Fernandez is still on the list of Manchester United for January. So if we can't agree a deal for Patrick Dorgu, then obviously we have this other option. Fabrizio has just tweeted as well, actually, about Patrick Dorgu. So Fabrizio's just said in the last couple of minutes that he understands that Manchester United are now preparing a second bid for Lecce's Patrick Dorgu, which is what the video title says. And he says that Manchester United are not going to pay the 40 million euros price tag, but United will try to advance after their 27 million euros opening proposal was turned down. So the first bid was 27 million euros, rejected by Lecce. Manchester United now willing to go back to the table and offer what's being reported as 30 million euros. That's their max price. I'd be fine with that. I would take that. I think it would be an okay deal to do. So yeah, we'll see how this one goes, but I would be happy with it. Let's see what people are saying here. Lots of people in the chat saying, why don't we go for Kirkes? I think Kirkes is going to cost you probably, 40, 50 million pounds? I don't think Kirkes is realistic, to be honest. But we can see. What else have we got in the chat? Quite a few people are saying, why are we not going for Alvaro Fernandez? Well, as I said a couple of minutes ago, Fabrizio Romano did say yesterday that if Manchester United don't proceed with a deal for Patrick Dorgu, then they will go back to exploring Alvaro Fernandez. So, yeah, I think he's a pretty solid backup option, and some might even argue that Alvaro Fernandez is a better option than Patrick Dorgu. Obviously, we have this buyback clause. So Fabrizio said yesterday, he says United have more options in their list for new left wing back, including Alvaro Fernandez, who has a buyback clause of only 18 million euros. So, yeah, the first bid was rejected for Patrick Dorgu, 27 million euros. Lecce want 40. Man United willing to pay 30. And the plan B is Alvaro Fernandez for only 18 million euros. I mean, if I was Manchester United, I would try and get both of them, to be honest. I think we need lots and lots of players in that position because at the moment we don't really have anybody, do we? We don't have a left back. Luke Shaw's injured all the time. Tyrell Malacia is going to be loaned out. If there was a genuine option, I would go for both of them because obviously the thing that you have to remember is Patrick Dorgu plays as a left wing back, but he can also play as a right-sided midfielder, a right winger, sorry. So it's obviously they do play in the same position, but the point I'm making is Patrick Dorgu is versatile, whereas Alvaro Fernandez is just like a straight up left back or left wing back, whatever you want to call it. So I actually think that Patrick Dorgu and Alvaro Fernandez could play in the same side. Obviously, if Anthony leaves Manchester United, we will need more strength in the attacking line, and Patrick Dorgu offers that. So I personally, I mean, 30 million euros for Patrick Dorgu and then 18 million euros for Alvaro Fernandez, that's 48 million euros total, 40 million pounds. I would do that this window. Go and sign both of them. You know, if we are going to sell Garnacho, right, which we'll talk about in a minute, and the asking price is apparently 60 million pounds, which is 70 million euros. With that money, you could go and get Alvaro Fernandez for 18. You could get Patrick Dorgu for 30. That's 48 total. And it would leave you approximately 23 million euros left to play with. You could maybe go and get Rayan Cherki from Lyon. He's, I think, valued at around 20 million euros. So for selling one player, you could bring in 3. That's the alternative we have here. We'll talk about Garnacho in a minute, but you can let me know what your thoughts are on that in the comment section below. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Just a quick one. We've got over 300 people in the stream already. If everyone could do me a little favor and drop a like, that would be really, really appreciated. We're trying to hit 500 likes on this video, so please go and do that now if you haven't already, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. I've just dropped a link into the chat to do that, so yeah, go and do that right now. Ant says, Kieran, you're forgetting one thing. Why would Alvaro Fernandez even want to come back to Manchester United when he's doing so well at Benfica? It's a good point. It's a very good point. I mean, Alvaro Fernandez has said before that his dream is to come back to Manchester United. So he definitely would want to come back. But I think the other thing as well that you have to consider, which I know is probably going to upset a few people, but the obvious elephant in the room is money. At Benfica, he's currently being paid £5,000 a week. 7,000 euros per week, right? If he came to Manchester United, I reckon he would probably earn whatever Malacia is earning. Let's have a look at Malacia's wage quickly. So Malacia is earning, wow, that is mental. Malacia is earning £75,000 a week. Let this sink in for a minute, right? Manchester United pay Tyrell Malacia, who, let's be honest, I don't think has ever been better than Alvaro Fernandez, £75,000 a week. And Benfica, who are a Champions League side, pay their starting left wing back, who's scoring goals, getting assists, playing in the Champions League, £5,000 a week. So Manchester United are paying Malacia almost 15 times the amount that Benfica are paying Alvaro Fernandez. So you can kind of see why. 1, he wants to come back to Manchester United. He wants to prove himself. 2, he'd be playing under Ruben Amorim, who's obviously a Portuguese manager, somebody who, you know, they know each other. And 3, he's going to be given a massive wage increase versus what he's earning at Benfica. So when you look at it like that, people will say, oh, but Man United are going to get relegated. We're not going to get relegated. You know, things will get better. At the moment, it's bad, but we are still in the Europa League. We are still in the FA Cup. The Premier League's obviously done. The Premier League is just like a training exercise now. It's a case of how unembarrassing can we make it? But there is still hope in the Europa League and the FA Cup. Obviously, he could play in the Europa League as well. He won't be cup tied because he's been playing in the Champions League. So when you look at it like that, yeah, I mean, there is obviously the possibility that he turns around and says, I don't want to leave at this point. I want to go in the summer, maybe. But obviously, we do have this buyback clause. So yeah, those are the obvious elephant in the rooms that realistically, Alvaro Fernandez would come to Manchester United and would earn a minimum, I would say, of £50,000 a week. Minimum. And at the moment, he's only earning £5,000 a week. You know? So that's the kind of answer to that question. And obviously, as I said, Malacia is probably going to leave the club. That's been reported widely in the last couple of days that Malacia will be leaving Manchester United. So you can kind of see where this story will fall. Malasia's wages would be cleared. That's 75 grand a week gone. You bring in people like Patrick Dorgu and you bring in Alvaro Fernandez. Patrick Dorgu's wages at Lecce at the moment are only 10,000 a week. So you've got Alvaro Fernandez on 5,000 a week and you've got Patrick Dorgu on 10,000 a week. Okay. So let's say, for example, we say to both of them, we will increase your wages by 5 times, which is massive. Imagine your employer calling you up today and saying, I'm going to give you a pay rise by 5 times your current salary. You'd be jumping around the room, wouldn't you? So let's say for this example that Patrick Dorgu and Alvaro Fernandez join Manchester United. Their current wages combined are £15,000 per week, right? So you take that and we turn around to them and we say, we're going to give you a 5 times pay increase. They're probably there saying, that sounds reasonable. I'm happy with that. That would equate to £75,000 a week combined between those two players. That's adding up their current wage at Benfica and Lecce respectively, and then timesing it by 5. So they would earn a 75 grand a week combined. And as I said, you just have to then look at Malacia, who conveniently is earning 75 grand a week. So do you see where my maths is coming from here? The point being that at the moment we are massively overpaying certain players. And if Manchester United manage to get rid of Malacia, which it looks like they will, they could probably cover Alvaro Fernandez and Patrick Dorgu's wages just by getting rid of Tyrell Malacia. So now you can see how this will all work, because we are effectively, what we're doing is we're looking at younger players with smaller wage demands, and that's how we can get more deals done. So yeah. Sheikh Jim says, why don't we send Malacia to Lecce on loan? That's not a bad idea, to be fair. Stay Humble says, is Anthony still going to Real Betis? Yeah, apparently that deal is done. I don't know why he was in training yesterday. He's still obviously got to go and do his medical. Maybe there's another club that have come in for him. I don't know. We'll wait and see. So yeah, Anthony to Real Betis should be concluded in the next couple of days, I imagine. Brogan says United should not panic by a left wing back at all. He is not good enough. Are you talking about Patrick Dorgu? I've seen mixed things about Dorgu. I've seen lots of people saying he's really good, and then I've seen lots of people saying if we pay 40 million, we're going to get our pants pulled down. So I don't know. I don't watch enough of Lecce to really be able to give a firm opinion. I think from what I've seen of clips, what I've read of scout reports, he looks decent. But I mean, at the end of the day, those are just like 30-second clips on YouTube. It's not the full representation of Patrick Dorgu. So yeah. But let's move on from that and let's jump on over to Alvaro Fernandez. No, not Alvaro Fernandez. Alejandro Garnacho, shall we? So the latest on Garnacho is that apparently Napoli have now submitted an offer of around £50 million for Garnacho. How does everyone feel about that? I still think that sounds a little bit low, to be honest. I think the deal has to be worth a minimum of 60, whether that's including some add-ons or not. But there is a little bit of a twist in the tale. Fabrizio's reporting that apparently Napoli are also now in talks with Dortmund over a potential deal for Karim Adeyemi, who obviously is a similar profile player. So yeah, it might be that Man United miss out on selling Garnacho now. Chelsea apparently are still in the mix. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. So this came up from Fabrizio yesterday. Fabrizio says, I understand Napoli and Dortmund are discussing a package deal worth around €50 million for Karim Adeyemi. Direct club-to-club contact made today, as exclusively revealed. Napoli have also approached the players' side to discuss contract terms. And he says, more on the Karim Adeyemi and Napoli story. Borussia Dortmund received direct approach today with opening proposal to follow if they can agree terms with the players' side. Meanwhile, Napoli are preparing an important effort to try and get Adeyemi's green light. So yeah, it might be that this whole Garnacho thing just turns into nothing. You know, it might be that Dortmund end up selling Adeyemi to Napoli, and it might end up being that Garnacho stays at Manchester United. I mean, that is a possibility. There is still Chelsea being mentioned. Apparently, Chelsea are still considering putting in a bid. Manchester United's valuation is £70 million. That's what's being reported, which I think is probably fair. If Patrick Dorgu, now just to be clear, because I know some people were saying like, oh, one day you say he's worth this much and another day you say he's worth this much. And I think it's all relative, okay? It all depends. You know, it's like the valuation is determined by the club. It's not determined by fans, because there'll be some fans who say that Garnacho's worth 200 million. There'll be others who say he's worth 10 million. You know, like it's completely relative. And the only way to determine a price is by what the club are willing to sell for. And I think what's kind of spun me out a little bit is the fact that Southampton have apparently put a £50 million price tag on Tyler Dibbling. Okay, Tyler Dibbling is 18 years of age. He's played one season in the Premier League. And so far this season, he has got, in the Premier League, he's got 2 goals in 20 games. And he's apparently worth 50 million. Tottenham are interested, Newcastle are interested, and apparently RB Leipzig are also interested. I mean, if he's worth 50 million, then Garnacho's worth 200 million, you know? But the point I'm making here is it's completely relative to whatever the club think they're worth. That's all you can look at it like, you know? Because one fan will say he's worth 10 million, another fan will say he's worth 50. Like, it's impossible to put a valuation on someone. It's whatever they're worth to the club. But, sorry, Southampton have put a valuation of £55 million on Tyler Dibbling. Mental. But at the end of the day, Manchester United have kind of shot themselves in the foot, because they put out this story, didn't they, a couple of weeks ago, saying that players like Mainu and Garnacho are for sale, which immediately just lowers the asking price. If you put out an article, put it like this, right? Say that you have a house and you don't want to sell your house, it's not on the market, and someone comes and knocks on your door and says, I really, really want to buy your house. And you say, well, my house isn't for sale. I don't want to sell my house. And they say, well, I want your house. I'm going to give you over the asking price for your house because I desperately want it. You're then in the driving seat, aren't you? And you could turn around and say, I want double what my house is worth, otherwise I'm not selling it. Whereas as soon as you put your house up on the market and it's plastered everywhere, it's on all these different websites, maybe you've paid for it to be showing at the top of the search results on the websites for houses, you know, people are then going to know that you're a motivated seller because you're effectively advertising your asset to be sold, aren't you? And that's what Manchester United did, you know, through The Athletic. They had a story put out there that no player is safe and that players like Garnacho and Mainu are up for sale. And that's why now you have teams like Napoli who are lowballing us for Garnacho. You know, it's the fault of ourselves. As soon as you put out a story saying that your player is for sale, you're never going to get an overinflated market price, are you? Whereas Southampton have put out a story saying that Tyler Dibbling is not for sale, and if people want to buy him, the asking price is a minimum of £55 million. So as it stands at the moment, the offer that we've received for Garnacho of 50 million is less than what Southampton are asking for Tyler Dibbling, who's played one season in the Premier League and has scored 2 goals in 20 games. Like, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. But you can let me know your thoughts on all of that. Let's talk about Marcus Rashford really quickly. Before we do that, we've got 400 people in the room now, which is absolutely lovely. We're trying to get to 500 likes by the end of the video, so go and like the show now if you haven't already, and make sure to subscribe. I just put Tyler Dibbling in the chat. Why did I do that? We are only 1 subscriber away from 40,600, so if this is your first time watching today, don't forget to subscribe. That would be great to hit that by the end of today's video, people, so go and do that. But yeah, let's talk about Marcus Rashford quickly. So video footage came out yesterday showing Marcus Rashford back in first team training. What a mess. What an absolute mess. Ruben Amorim, I think, handled the situation well. I think dropping Rashford showed power. But now he's back in the squad. Apparently, some people are suggesting that he might be in the matchday squad for the game tonight. That just shows weakness. It shows desperation. And I think it weakens Ruben Amorim's position massively. The fact that you leave a player out for 9 games because he's not training properly, and then suddenly no one wants to buy him, you don't do any transfers. This isn't on Ruben Amorim, by the way. This is on Ineos, because Ineos have not managed to negotiate a deal to get rid of him. Ineos clearly aren't willing to pay off any of his contract or give him any money to leave, which is fine, but that's what some clubs would do. Arsenal did it, didn't they? With Aubameyang, they did it with Lacazette. Arteta came in, he said, I don't want Aubameyang, and they got rid of him, and they had to pay a lot of money to get rid of him. Whereas Man United clearly are not willing to do that with Rashford. So, yeah, apparently he might be even back in the squad tonight, which is mental, absolutely mental. Now, I don't know how to feel about this. I think from Ruben Amorim's side, I think it weakens his position massively. But from a Manchester United side, if no one wants to buy him, which they don't, clearly, no one wants to loan him, no one's even willing to take him on loan with us paying half of his wages. That shows how desperate the situation is. I don't think it could get any worse with Rashford in the side, to be honest. We're still losing 3-0 to Bournemouth at home. We're still losing to Brighton at home. We're losing to Nottingham Forest at home. Like, I get it in a game against a team like Arsenal or Man City. He won't work because he doesn't defend. And in those games, you are just parking the bus at the moment. But in the games against like Southampton, you know, a relegation fighting team, I don't think it can make it any worse. Now, just to be very, very clear, I want Marcus Rashford to leave the club. I'm not saying that he should stay. I'm just saying at this moment in time, there clearly is nobody who wants him, which is pretty mad for him, isn't it? You know, for him to do this interview with Henry Winter saying he wants to leave and he wants a new challenge, probably hoping that, you know, every club in Europe would be wanting to sign him, to go from the only teams left interested are Dortmund, and they're not even willing to cover half of his wages on loan. Like, it's crazy. Crazy situation. But it'll be very, very interesting to see whether he is in the squad tonight. Obviously, there is some potential that maybe they could, you know, make him train on his own. That's what's been happening the last couple of weeks. But he's in training. He's in training today. Or yesterday, sorry, not today. People in the chat are saying they should just make him train on his own until he leaves. You know what? I don't even think he would leave. I don't. I honestly just think he'll just stay there and continue collecting his paycheck. Because if he wanted to leave, right, it's as simple as this. If Marcus Rashford wanted to leave the club now, he would turn around to Dortmund and he'd say, you know what? I'll come and join you and I'll take less money. But he's not willing to do that, clearly. He's on over 300 grand a week. Not a single club in world football, other than Saudi, would be willing to take him for that amount of money. You know, there's links to Barcelona, but Barcelona don't have the money. Now, is there potential that towards the end of the transfer window, maybe a team in the Premier League appear? There's some murmurs that Tottenham might be interested. Obviously, they've just got another load of injuries, haven't they? But I just can't really see it, to be honest. I just think it's a massive risk. And a lot of teams are going to look at Rashford and say, you've not played football for, since December? Beginning of December? He's on huge wages. I just think it's a massive gamble. So we'll see how that one progresses. But at the moment, I'm not particularly hopeful. Somebody in the chat saying that Florian Plettenberg has just tweeted about Marcus Rashford. Let's have a little look what he has to say. Florian Plettenberg. Let's have a look. Okay. So Florian Plettenberg has said, there you go. So Florian Plettenberg this morning has said that Dortmund are currently not hopeful of signing Marcus Rashford. Barcelona remain in the race. However, Dortmund see a potential opportunity if negotiations for Rashford continue to drag on and a chance arises closer to deadline day on February the 3rd. This would depend on Manchester United deciding to offload the player and the transfer package becoming more affordable. I mean, this is just mental, isn't it? So just to summarise what Sky Sports journalist Florian Plettenberg has said here. At the moment, Manchester United are apparently asking for half of his wages to be covered, which is about 150k a week, right? For the rest of the season. So, I mean, how many weeks are left in the season? Maybe 20 weeks? Something like that? Maybe not even. Say 20 weeks. So the total package is probably around £3 million to loan Rashford until the summer. And effectively, Dortmund are saying we're not even willing to pay that. But what we are willing to do is wait till deadline day and see if Manchester United come back even more desperate and are willing to loan him for even less money than what they're asking now. That's what they're saying. Which I don't see why they would. He still says that Barcelona are in the race, but where are Barcelona going to get the money from, you know? They can't even really register players at the moment, can they? So yeah, I don't know. I think Rashford's probably going to stay, to be honest. The fact that he's in training kind of sums it up for me. But anyway, I am going to wrap the video up here. I will be back live this evening. Obviously, we play Rangers tonight. We haven't really spoke about that yet, but hopefully we win, but who knows at the moment. I'll be back live this evening. Obviously, as soon as the game finishes, I will go live. Make sure to drop a like before you leave. It really helps the channel out. And subscribe if you are new. I've just dropped a link into the chat to do that. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll be live straight after the Rangers game tonight, probably at about 10 o'clock, I imagine. Have a great day. Speak to you all later. Bye for now.